Magoni's a goal scorer. What about Dante? Dante's his own breed.
Give me 2 seconds, Eichel and Svetch, and I'll be coming at your neck. Richard Zednick, laugh past the breadstick, Artemi will bury. Send him on his merry way, lest it's don't carry. What's sadder than KK's broken spleen? Leafs fan with hopes and dreams. Rink Moose is back for season 3 with hot takes like you wouldn't believe.
I'll block shots. I rescind that. You've never blocked a shot for me.
Now let's turn it over to the host of the show. His character's high, but his skill level's low. Kid back checks like you don't even know. Championship flow, Jonathan Quick is a schmo. Yeah.
Oh, hello there. 'Tis the season. Last year was like treason. Stanley Cup, more like a COVID Cup. The year of Cooper was more a big blooper, like Ferris Bueller in a brand new cruiser. Oh, hail, hail! Now my car is a star, moves like a sports car. He can sauce like a Boston crisscross like Art Ross. He's peanut butter smooth like Quinn Hughes, and a work of art like that upstart Carter Hart. That's good kokanee right there. So in comes Keith. Will the boys be Leaf? Can Jumbo Joe and Nonsense Mo avoid another repeat? It's time to start the show, so turn up the stereo. Put your feet up, relax, enjoy a Bud Light Jack. Hello, hockey fans. Oh, from the United States to Newfoundland. I'm one of your hosts, as always, Nick Costa. And welcome to Season 3. Episode 3 of the Rink Moose Hockey Podcast, a episodic podcast where 2 good friends get together, and discuss all things NHL and their implications in the fantasy hockey universe. I, of course, like I said, am Nick Costu.
Wow.
With this annoying schmuck, Kyle Nice. Kyle, how are you doing on this second night of NHL action?
Well, I can't complain. After all, I am a brand new Rangers fan now, which is a new thing for me. It's like it feels like the start of a new job. You know, you got that early job jitters. So I'm doing all right. But we got another guy.
Let me introduce him.
Yeah.
Geez, where's my phone?
You forgot your name.
No, I know his name. I want his fantasy name. Sorry to hold the crowd in suspense here.
Oh, yeah.
Joining us in the rotating third chair, returning guest. On Yahoo Fantasy, they call him Haute Couturier. Michael Robson, ladies and gentlemen,
Wow,
is joining us for the first time in a couple months. How are you doing tonight, Mike?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. Usually when I'm on, it's to talk about prospects and drafting. But with junior leagues postponed around the world and me not having the ability to, stay up to watch European games or tune into them because I'm in classes. I'm excited to be talking some NHL tonight.
Yeah. Michael is smack out of a trial advocacy course in which he was watching the Ranger game.
Oh, no.
So, he's had a lot to digest the last hour, and now he's here joining us on the show. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Mike. We had Josh on for the preview show last week. He kind of gave us some hints as to what he was up to in our draft. Our draft is, of course, over now. What do you make of your fantasy team?
Well, I have to say that after listening to a fair amount of the fantasy draft special last week, I thought I was prepared. I was ready to go into it.
Oh, we didn't get him ready.
I made the tactical error of listening to the guys I was drafting against, which means that, of course, my strategy is going to be stolen by those guys in the draft.
Right.
So I get into draft night, and we're in a league with 4 goalie categories. So shutouts, GAA, save percentage, and wins. So goalies are important. Josh, he's kept Vasilevsky and Rask. So 2 of the top guys are off the table. So I've got my eyes on Binnington and Hart in, I think, the 3rd or 4th round. And it gets to my picks, and I see Freezer Tart, I see Hart, and I see the Goop Troop. And I swear, coming off the board, at least two of those guys took Binnington and Carter Hart. Then we get around to later in the draft.
You're talking to both of them.
Kyle, the Avs fan, took Grubauer 2 picks before I had him lined up. So
oh boy.
I'm feeling a little frustrated, but otherwise I like my team outside of the goalies. But in a 4-category goalie league, I think I'm going to need to win every other category per week, and that's a tough sell.
You know what the problem there is, Mike? That's what happens when great minds think alike. And then your draft order just happens to fuck you.
Yeah.
You know, like I did the show obviously with Josh and Nick, and those two I noticed were always kind of bagging me right before my pick as well. So and then your your Kucherov pick, which was brilliant, I had him pegged for my very next pick as well. And I was like, that darned Michael. So again, great minds think alike, and that's what happens. Like mock drafts will never do it for you. Mock drafts will never simulate like 9 hockey minds, like proper hockey minds in a draft. It's not the same.
Yeah.
And let me call you out, Mike. Of everybody in our league, you fucked me the most on draft night.
Ooh.
I wanted Mitch Marner. You took him right before I was going to take him. I wanted Mark Stone. You took Mark Stone. I wanted Morgan Riley. You took Morgan Riley. You had my number. Jamie Benn. I wanted him too. So your team, in my mind, is the one I'm most, like I'm salivating the most over. Like you I
like my team.
On.
I like it.
It's a great team.
In a league with 4 goalie categories, carrying Carey Price, Elvis Merzlikins, and John Gibson is not necessarily a recipe for success.
Right. And you made that trade with Josh to move down in round 1. So was Marner always your guy? Like, did you always have a mindset Marner is going to drop to the end of the first?
Well, so I looked at the way our first round was structured, because this is my first time doing a keeper league. And I honestly, I'm shocked that Joe kept Austin Matthews, because he had first pick. So I would have thought he would have not protected Austin because he would be guaranteed to pick him right off the bat.
That's brilliant. I never thought of that. Like, that's a mistake.
Yeah.
That is a mistake by Joe.
So when I saw how many people kept their first round picks from last year, I figured, okay, I'm either picking second in the first round or third or fourth if I do this trade with Josh. And honestly, I had Ovi last year. I think Ovechkin's a great fantasy player, but in a shortened season where streaks are everything, I wasn't entirely convinced that he would be as effective as he's been in years past. Still probably a first round pick, still one of the top players in fantasy, but I didn't want to lock myself in on him. So I figured if I traded back as a Leafs fan, Mitch Marner was available. But ultimately the guys I had targeted in the first couple of rounds, I got in Mitch Marner and Victor Hedman. And so I was perfectly happy to make the trade. I know there's some controversy around trading the keeper pick in the second round. But once we got past that and sort of changed up the trade a little bit, I was perfectly happy to trade back a couple spots.
Fair enough. Kyle, you have anything to say about the draft? Any final thoughts before we move on to the topic of the show?
Well, I just think that a common sentiment is there's a lot of parity this year amongst teams. And I think this is going to be our tightest race yet. Wow. In our draft, in our fantasy history, or mine in particular. So like, I don't know where this is going. I really don't. I can't picture any sort of faller or the guy who's going to be clearly last. Like Joe's stepped up his game this year. Hopefully he's active this year, you know. But you know what you mentioned, that's a great strategy there. He shouldn't have kept Matthews. He could have had a whole different elite player.
Very
and
astute
Matthews.
Point.
Yeah, I never even, that went right over my head. So I next time I talk to Joe, I'm going to tell him exactly that. You blew it, my friend. You blew it.
Yeah,
go on.
Oh, just like I think Matthews is a top 5 fantasy player this year. Like, he didn't score in the opener, but I think he goes on to have a great year. But
Sure.
there's no risk to exposing your first round pick when you pick first overall.
Exactly. Yep.
And yeah, speaking of parity, to Kyle's point, another point is it's only a 13-week season. So every week counts, just like every game counts in this short 56-game season.
Yeah.
You can't muck up. You can't get swept 10-0.
No, that could
happens.
spell
You're done.
disaster.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. And we will provide periodic updates to the Rink Moose fans who are always curious over the fate of Kyle's fantasy teams.
Oh, they love it.
The soap opera that it is.
They
Seemingly
love it.
every year it's a soap opera.
Yeah.
But
Well,
moving on.
I find
Today-
sorry, just last
yeah.
point. I find with fantasy, no matter how much you love your team to start, there's always one guy who takes your ire as the year goes on. You know, and there's somebody who usually performs like decently well, but not as well as you expected. But that's always the fun ones, I find.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And you're so trigger happy to make moves early. Like I see Kane with a bad game, like game 1, and now I'm like, oh my God, who can I package him for? You know, it's like we all have to settle down and like really settle into what our teams are going to be, because like we're not going to know for like a couple weeks what we have in front of us. So it's all just pretty messed up given the timelines, but we'll see what happens.
Well, speaking of seeing what happens, let's make our predictions for this upcoming season. We have to do it as annually Kyle and I do. We usually do a season preview. We predict each division one by one. Little bit of a different format this time. No star players, no storyline, no breaking it down as methodically as that. We got a lot of teams to break down. We got 3 different opinions to give on each team. So we're kind of going to shotgun these. You know, we can have healthy debate, but
Wow.
we're going to have to make quick work of these, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So without further ado, I think we got to start with the North Division.
Oh, you want to start hot.
I think so.
Okay.
I think this will probably
Let's get hot.
lead to the most, controversy.
Yeah.
And I think we owe it to this division. And sorry, I misspoke. It's the Scotia NHL North Division. I got to get right on these brand names.
You certainly
That's why I was taking so much time before the show.
Oh my God.
Because I had to get all these brand names. So Scotia NHL North Division. Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens, Calgary Flames, Vancouver Canucks, Winnipeg Jets, Edmonton Oilers, Ottawa Senators.
Would you slow the hell down here?
Okay.
Go again. Slower.
Okay, everyone knows what teams are in this division. It's the Canadian teams,
I know, but
right?
yeah.
Okay. So, rank number 7, as we always do. Bottom to top.
I thought you were ranking them just now. That's why I said slow down. Okay, good. Good. I was like, what the fuck is
Come
this? I don't
on.
even know what you're
Come
talking
on.
about.
One by one.
Yes,
We like
exactly.
dramatic fashion.
Thank you.
So, given he is the guest, I will open the floor to Michael
Whoa.
Robson.
Whoa.
All right.
Responsibility huge.
This is
Number
a
7,
huge
Mike.
honor.
Who you got?
Well, this might surprise people, but number 7, I have the Winnipeg Jets.
No.
I think Hellebuck is a great goaltender, but in the past he's been propped up by fantastic defenses. And although I have a lot of faith in Paul Maurice, I just think that this is the year where depth, and especially defensive depth, can play a huge role. And I think they're still recovering from losing Bufflin, Trouba, and Myers a couple years ago. So I have them, one injury away from blowing up. And I hope they prove me wrong, but I have Winnipeg 7th.
Should I go?
Go ahead.
Number 7, I'll go boring. I'll say Ottawa Senators. Much improved. Going to be a really great, fun team to watch. Stützle is going to be great to watch. Everyone's going to be talking about Brady Tkachuk versus Matthew Tkachuk. It seems like it's just an inevitable storyline. And then, you know what? We've got Shabbat. We've got interesting Matt Murray. What happens there? I think he'll be in for a bit of a shock with that defense. But they'll be better. They'll be competitive, but they're 7th for me.
Number 7 for me, Ottawa Senators. A first power play with Josh Norris, Drake Batherson, and Evgeny Dadonov is not going to finish above 7th. It's not good enough. I like the New Jerseys. I like Tim Stützle. I think he's going to be great playing with what looks like an older line with Derek Stepan as his center. But all in all, I mean, I look at the defense. Until their new prospect comes up, his name eludes me right now.
Oh, Brandstrom.
No.
Oh,
the American.
Sanderson.
Until Sanderson's there, until, the one you just mentioned is up there, I just don't see a Christian Lalande and Josh Brown, Mike Riley, Nikita Zaitsev, bottom 4 carrying the load. It's too weak. They're just happy to be there.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to fight hard every game, and that's it. So Ottawa number 7.
Right.
So, I think the natural pick next for me at number 6 is Ottawa. And for all the reasons you guys mentioned, I think that they're playing with house money and they go out there and they surprise teams on some nights. I agree they don't have the depth to be successful this year beyond surprising. But I think a second line of Tim Stützle, Stepan, and Dadonov will be an exciting one to watch. And I think they're going to play fast, physical hockey and end up finishing above the Winnipeg Jets.
Number 6 for me might come to a bit of a surprise, but I have the Calgary Flames. Yeah. This one, to be honest, I just don't like the Flames. There's something about that core that doesn't scream, a passionate, strong core. And I just think they're going to have, in a division where there's a lot of pure skill around them, I think they're going to get into some scoring trouble. And I just think this is a year where the Johnny Gaudreaus, the Sean Monahans of the world have a breakdown, and then we're going to see some big changes in Calgary. That's just the way I see things going. And other than that, their defense, I don't mind their defense. I think it's a great defense, but I just like the potency of the other teams a bit more, and I'll have them 6th here.
Number 6, a shocker.
Oh,
The Edmonton Oilers are going to finish 6th this year.
Wow.
And it pains me to say it because I only want this team to succeed. I only want them to get better. I only want young Connor to be happy.
Yeah.
But just watching that game last night against Vancouver, if there's one thing Nick stresses in Nick's style hockey, it's defensive accountability, defensive awareness. And this team just lacks it. And they're missing Clefbaum. He's out for the year. They replace him with Peisenberry, who, yes, should be a power play guru. He should help. However, he's not going to help on the back end. We saw that, being a Toronto fan last year. He's not going to solve that problem. I don't think a Slater Cuckoo's going to help. I don't think a Caleb Jones can just insert him and become a top 4 defenseman all of a sudden. Is Ethan Bear ready? I know lots of people are high on him. I still haven't seen enough. I just don't believe enough in the defense. And then the even bigger glaring hole is at the goaltending position. I mean, they still have the Koskinen contract. It reeks. And, of course, your other goalie, I don't know why he's still there. But Mike Smith's just got to go. And if you've listened to the show a while, you'd know how I feel about him. This team, from the back end, from the goaltending position, there's only so much Dave Tippett can do. And hell, we talked about it being a breaking point in Calgary. This might be a breaking point at Edmonton. If things go awry, like I'm predicting, I don't know how long Connor's going to want to stick around. So this will be intriguing. And like, I don't hate them. I just think with those deficits, they don't reach the level of any of the teams I have at 1 to 5. So there you go.
Yeah. For a lot of the same reasons, it's why I have them at 5. I know you're not supposed to judge based on the early season. We talked about that in fantasy, but I think Vancouver was a team that had a lot of question marks for me. And I know it's the first game of the season, but last night they came out and showed that between Edmonton and Vancouver, Vancouver's the better team. And so all of a sudden that has me asking, who else does Edmonton finish over in this division? They're going to beat out a Toronto, a Montreal, a Vancouver, a Calgary. And I don't have them doing that. So I have them finishing 5th as well.
For number 5 for me, I will go Winnipeg Jets. I would really love to see them in the playoffs. They're a really lovable team. I do predict Scheifele to have a monstrous season. I really wanted to draft him, and I was considering trading for him. I think from what I can see on the daily faceoff here, he's on both power play units, which is really interesting, or a typo. Scheifele.
Oh, wow.
Or a typo perhaps, but I think he's got all the makings to have a career high in pacing, that is. Another prediction I have there is I think Line A is going to play great amongst all this trade talk. And I think some of those rumors will fizzle out as the year goes along. Not going to be traded this year. Hellebuck is not going to be as good as last year, and that will be the Achilles heel. He just can't do it over again like he did before. Otherwise, this team would be in the playoffs. They're a team that's, got Ville Heinola on the rise and that kind of thing, but it's just not their year this year. But they'll be a really fun team to watch. Number 5.
And I will segue right from there and say I have Winnipeg at 5 as well. I think Paul Maurice will coach the hell out of this team. Connor Hellebuck will stop as many pucks as he can, and they will fall just short on the final game of the season to make the playoffs. It'll be crushing.
Something like that.
Yeah. But I just like the leadership on this team. I like to bet on leadership, and I like Scheifele. I like Wheeler. I like Hellebuck. He's a much more competent goalie than what Ottawa has in net and miles ahead of what Edmonton has. And that, to me, speaks volumes. So I like their depth. Even Kyle Connor and Ehlers, you have them buried on the second and third line. Andrew Kopp. The defense is suspect, and that's why I can't put them in the playoffs. I don't even know who Pionk is. I was talking about this on the show last week.
Don't be like that.
Why is this guy appointed the top power play guy? What has he done? But I digress. They got enough pieces to give a fight, but I don't see them getting in. So Winnipeg at 5. What's your hot take, by the way? You said you had a hot take on Winnipeg.
Oh, yeah, I think Scheifele's going to pace for 100 points.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
82 game, spread, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess now we're getting into the nitty-gritty with the playoff teams. So my first playoff team at number 4, I have the Vancouver Canucks. I still think, despite how good they looked in the first game yesterday, that there's just too many questions, too many uncertainties after all the change they went through this offseason for me to really feel good about them finishing higher than 4th. But I think they showed a certain drive and determination against Edmonton last night that will transfer throughout a full 56-game season. I really like their top 6. I think Hoglander might not have the production that Vancouver, the Canucks subreddit or Vancouver Canucks Twitter is expecting, but I think he's going to have a good season. I like their top 6. Defensively, they've got some guys back there who could surprise, could disappoint, but I think overall, the only reason I have them 4th is just because for every addition they made, there was a subtraction, and it's not so much that I don't believe in them. It's just that I want to wait and see.
Right. Number 4, I have the Edmonton Oilers, and I don't disagree with anything you guys said. The only thing I'll kind of defend myself with is I think this team will outscore those glaring issues. They just have so much incredible talent with those two players. It's a team, I will say, if they were in the playoffs, they'd be ousted in round 1, but I could see them definitely making it. I don't see a world where those two guys don't will this team through this regular season. Little hot take here. I think Barrie will be kicked off that top power play.
Ooh.
I think he's going to become just a useless.
So Darnell Nurse becomes the QB?
Or Ethan Bear.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'll support that hot take.
Good.
I don't disagree. Like, watching that game last night, I was not that impressed with Barrie.
No.
Like,
he looks sluggish and
he pales in comparison to the old Colorado Barrie.
Yeah.
He misses something.
Yeah. Yeah. He wasn't sharp. He wasn't like thinking a play ahead. He was it just seemed like wherever he was looking, that's where he was going to pass.
Yes.
And it was very predictable.
There was no deception.
No.
He did not look close to Makarian.
No.
And that's the gold standard.
Yeah.
I evaluate everyone on that scale, you know?
That's tough, man. That's tough.
Yeah.
Number 4, Nick.
Okay, number 4. I'm going to Vancouver as well. I will agree with Mike on this one. In making my decision here, I basically compared them to Winnipeg and Edmonton, given they're all kind of clumped in a tier in my mind. And to me, they just look to be the most complete team of all 3 of those. The forwards look, for the most part, complete. I know, the big criticism is in the bottom 2 forward lines, which I'll give them that. Highlighted by the wife kicker, Adam Gaudette.
Yeah, that's great.
But just moving on, I just don't see I just don't see a lot of talent there on the bottom 6. Maybe a guy, Virtanen will go down there when Miller comes back, and who knows if Hoglander sticks in the top 6. Maybe he adds some depth to the bottom 6. Thank God they don't have Louis Eriksson anymore. That'll be nice. He's down to Utica in the AHL. So, I don't know. The forwards give me enough faith. The defense, of course, gives me enough faith. I love the Hamnick signing. I know he's an old school defenseman, but for me, he check marks that box as a 5-6D. Quinn Hughes, of course, will continue being the power play quarterback he is, one of the best in the league. Nate Schmidt is not a bad defenseman. As a guy who watched a lot of Vegas games last year, he's by no means a bad guy. Vegas is sorry to miss him. And, of course, Edler will carry a lot of minutes there. And the goalies are fine. I mean, Thatcher Demko showed in the playoffs that he can shoulder a load. And Braden Holtby will be your average, just above average goalie. So that they're good enough, that tandem, to be better than Edmonton's and probably a better tandem than Winnipeg's. I don't really know who Winnipeg's backup is. And in a 56-game season, well, you got to trust both your goalies in a 56-game season. And I could put my faith in both these guys on any given night. So just out of sheer completeness, Vancouver gets my 4.
Yeah. And so, moving on to the third spot, for a lot of the reasons I listed for Vancouver with the additions that are sort of accompanied by subtractions, I think that's why I have Calgary at 3rd. But I just think the additions are players who I think have been underrated in the past and who add something to the team that allows the star players to go out there and play their best game. Jacob Markstrom is going to be a fantastic goalie for them. It's been mentioned all over the hockey universe that he's the first number 1 goalie they've had since Mika Kiprusoff. And so Jacob Markstrom, I'm high on him. I think Chris Tanev gives them a little bit more security on the back end. You've got Giordano, Hannafin. They waived Shillington, which is surprising. I thought that he would have been a young guy to take a step forward this year. But I still think that they've got a decent enough defensive core. I know, Kyle, you're not big on their forwards, but I think with a guy like Markstrom in net, those forwards will be allowed to do exactly what they're good at, which is just go out there and focus on the offensive side of the puck. So that's why I've got Calgary at number 3.
Yeah, and you guys both touched on Vancouver. I got Vancouver at 3. Just think they're a very lovable top 6. I really like that top 6. And I think they could probably in this division have the potential to have the best power play numbers. 2 good units. I think Demko and Holtby will split starts evenly. I don't love Holtby there, but I think Demko could emerge as that 1A guy come playoff time. But overall, like you said, just a lot of balance, a lot of good things to like. I don't love how protected their goalies were last year. That's one of the stats that jumped out at me is Markstrom in Vancouver was pretty well shelled with what they had. Hopefully a Schmidt cleans that up, but I like him good enough to have him number 3.
Number 3. Again, got to segue off Michael here.
Oh,
Calgary Flames. Arguably the best offseason of any team. That's how I'll sum them up.
Disagree.
I think they acquired the best goalie on the market. That'll go a long way.
What, not Jake Allen?
Don't even get me started on Jake Allen. I'll get to Jake Allen. I'm not ready to talk about Jake Allen. Yeah, of course, they get the big boy in Jacob Markstrom. I think he's going to add a lot of stability. We saw in the playoffs just how bad Cam Talbot was and how he totally fucked them in the Dallas series. They had Dallas. They had him beat. They were up, I believe, 3-1. And he fucked up. And David Riddick wasn't much better. And I think it's just having that stability is going to pay so much dividends. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts 40 games and is a easily top 10 fantasy goalie. The forwards look complete. I really like the Josh Levo acquisition. He never had a fit in Toronto. The coaching staff always buried him. They never liked him. He showed some signs in Vancouver where he started to emerge. And I think they got him at a bargain COVID deal over the offseason. So he's going to be some depth scoring. That's going to help, and it's going to make everyone else slot better. Sam Bennett is now a 4th-line center instead of a 3rd-line center. And you have a 2A guy like Backlund as your 3C. It's just a good-looking lineup. Of course, you got Mangiapane there. You got Dubé there. Plenty of depth. On the back end, I think it's arguably the best back end in all of the North Division. Rasmus Anderson is a stud, if you don't know already. He'll be up with Giordano with Brody gone. And Hannafin's only growing. And Chris Tanev, of course, another acquisition there. Sturdy, hard-nosed defenseman. He might not stay healthy. He might not play over 50 games. But just having him there, that should provide some stability when he does play. And don't sleep on that Valimaki kid either. I hear good things about him. So all in all, completeness. I would argue probably the most complete team in that division. But I don't have them at the top just because I need to see how all the pieces work. I just haven't seen enough, and I can't bet on them. Which is also a same reason for why I have the next team at number 2. But we'll go to Mike first.
Yeah, well, so speaking of completeness, we've got a team that, addressed some weaknesses in the offseason. They looked at their team. They were like, hey, we're too focused on skill. We need to add some physicality. And that's why the Montreal Canadiens slot in at number 2 for me in the standings. I think you can look at both, both Montreal and Toronto is doing similar things this offseason and adding grit. But the reason I have Montreal finishing second is because the top end skill still isn't quite there. With that being said, their team just looks very balanced. This is the best defensive core that Carey Price has had in front of him in a long time. They're huge. They're physical. Josh Anderson looked fantastic in his debut for the Canadiens last night. Jonathan Drouin looked energetic again, which I don't think can be said for him for over the last couple of years. Like, he's had times where he's looked a little lethargic. And so hopefully he has a breakout year. Josh Anderson on his wing is going to help that. And then Philip Deneau has emerged as a really strong two-way center in the league, if not one of the top guys. I think they go on to have a really good year, and I think it's going to be a tight race at the top, but I have them finishing in a close second in this division.
Well said. Well, I'm going to have to go with number 2, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Of course, because I see goofy shit like Joe Thornton on the top power play and on the top line. No, all that aside, I think that nonsense is going to change pretty quick. I don't know what they're doing there, but Thornton, you can clearly see, doesn't really fit in on that top line. To be honest, I really did not like the look of Brody. He just looked really lost and he couldn't handle the puck very well the other night. So he's got to grow on me. I still see Justin Hall on this second pairing, and Zach Bugosian. I don't think this guy can play. So I think obviously the scoring will be there. They're going to outscore a lot of their problems. Unlike Edmonton, they do have a good goalie, but the defensive woes are still very much there, and they don't have the balance of the top team I have. And when this division starts getting feisty and physical, I mean, it's going to turn into playoff hockey by the second half of this amazing season we're going to have. And then this team will run into some weaknesses. That's my prediction there.
Montreal Canadiens, number 2.
Bitch.
I saw enough last night to be very impressed with this team. I think Marc Bergevin has finally molded the team he had envisioned for the past several years. All the criticism of him hoarding the cap space, not using all that money, finally out the window. Money. He finally established the team he wants. He got a hard-nosed grinder in Josh Anderson. He got his backup in Jake Allen, who is not great, by the way.
He is great.
He will not have a great season, but he will provide more stability than a Keith Kincaid, who was the most recent backup, or an Antti Niemi. So they'll be fine. Sorry, I'm just distracted by this great-looking Islander power play.
The Barzal wizardry.
Oh, I love it. They got Tyler Toffoli, a depth scorer. I made it known I don't particularly like Toffoli. I watched enough of him in LA. I think he's overrated.
Come on.
Anderson will be the better pickup in that respect, and that's part of the reason he got 7 years, with Toffoli's being a little shorter of a deal. So they're more complete. Like the fact you got a third line of Kotkaniemi and Armia, it's just impressive. And you got that great top line of Deneau and Tatar and Gallagher, of course.
Of course.
And that second line last night was the best line. Suzuki, Anderson, and Drouin. As Michael said, Drouin looked like he had a jump in his step, fresh, full of life. And it was great to see. And Suzuki looks like an emerging star, as many fantasy pundits predicted. So they look great. The defense looks very well-rounded. Romanov looked like a god, making passes from his blue line, setting guys up for breakaways.
Yes.
He came as advertised. Fresh out of the World Juniors, where people were loving him. So, yeah, I think they're great on the back end. And, of course, I'm not going to speak about Carey Price. We all know who he is. So, again, out of sheer completeness, this team makes the playoffs, and I have them at number 2.
So at this point, it's clear that I have the Leafs at number 1, and I could use this time as a Leafs fan to talk about, all that we have that everybody already knows about. Our star forwards, Freddie Anderson as a solid starter in net, Morgan Riley on the back end, just the dynamic players. But instead, I'm going to address the slander that Kyle put on my team earlier, talking about TJ Brody, Zach Bogosian, Joe Thornton on the top line. I think that you brought in players like Wayne Simmons and Joe Thornton to add a little character, and that's going to allow players to slot into the roles that they should be playing on other teams, so that they can contribute to the team in the best way possible. I love Zach Hyman. I think he's a great player. I think he'll still be used on the top line to go and fish pucks out of corners. But I've come to acknowledge and accept the fact that him on a shutdown line is the best place for his skill set. And I think he's going to thrive in that role. It's going to allow the rest of the Leafs lines to focus a little bit more on offense. TJ Brody is a cerebral player. What comes off the most about his game is how he thinks it. It's going to take him some time to adjust to get back up to NHL speed, but once he is, those passes are going tape to tape from the D to the offensive zone, and he's going to be able to run a second power play unit. And then Zach Bugosian, similar to Wayne Simmons, was brought in to fill a role. And, he's going to be physical on the back end. He's going to do his job, and at the end of the day, that's all you can ask from your 5-6D. So that's what I'll say about the Leafs. I have them finishing atop the division, again, in a very close race with Montreal, because I think Montreal is going to have a great year. But Leafs atop the division.
Montreal will win this division. When you have a top two center of Suzuki and Pierre-Luc Dubois, how could you not win your division? Oh, no, I'll hold your horses. There's obviously some thinking ahead going on here, but maybe we'll get into that in the Columbus segment. But the kid wants to come to Montreal. It's just a fact. Other than that, I mean, as a Suzuki owner, God, was I thrilled last night. What I have here in my good old notes, I say Suzuki is going to become a star this season. His breakout is coming right now. In the likes of a Mitch Marner, he's going to be on that level. The guy thinks like a veteran already. He's got the skills to back it up. And that line, like, if you've got an ultimate shutdown line of the Deneau line, which is great, and then this Suzuki line, which has a little mix of everything, the two-way cerebral center, the guy like Josh Anderson could be the most impressive power forward I can see in the game today. And simply because it's a dying breed. You don't see guys with a big body who can just fly down the wing and crash to the net with pretty much utter disregard for his own health. It was amazing to watch. Like, I was just thinking of what could have been thinking at that point. And it was awesome to see him back healthy. And I think he might score more than 2 goals this year. And then, you know what, this Romanov guy, look for him to just shoot up the rankings here, to shoot up onto the second power play. And then if all that fails, you've got probably the best goalie in the division, perhaps. So this team is utterly balanced. They've never been this good in such a long time. The hype is high, and I'm ready for them to take number 1 spot here.
I'm going to spend my time here more just talking about how the two top teams compare in Toronto, Montreal, and what Montreal lacks that Toronto has. And I think what they lack is certainty down the middle. I know we like the kids. They had a great showing in the playoffs, but I need to see a little more before I can conclusively say these are 2 top 6 centers. And I know Kotkaniemi's slotted in at 3, but that's what they're hoping for. And I just need to see more. Like, Kotkaniemi needs to improve upon what he was for the first 75% of last season, because it was not good. In the playoffs, he finally turned it on. And we all know no one's immune to a sophomore slump, and perhaps Suzuki is in for that. I need to see a little more, whereas when I look, 3 hours west, the city of Toronto, Matthews, Tavares, Kerfoot, Spezza. It's a top 4 down the middle center. Just like more. And when you can insulate third line with guys like Hyman and move him, Nick Robertson, depth, just fighting for a role on the team, it creates this internal competition that I think is going to make that 4th line very strong. And hell, even on the back end, there was talk of Travis Dermott not even making the team. And he's having to fight with Barabanov just to get there. Or the other Russian defenseman, Letinin. Thank you, Mike. So just the two of them fighting there, again, internal competition, it's going to help. Bugosian adds some sandpaper, almost like the Roman Polak role that he played when he was with the Leafs. And of course, we saw the power play last night. I know it's an experiment with what they do with Thornton and Simmons, but if they load it up with Nylander and Tavares, that's the best power play in the league. There's no question about it. And we saw Nylander picking corners. He just made everyone look silly. So they just have it. They have the it factor. And I am, of course, higher on Anderson than most people. A lot of people don't believe in him. I know he wasn't sharp last night, but I think all in all, he'll be just fine, especially in a contract year where he's asked to perform to his best. So that's it. Leafs will win the division. I feel very comfortable saying that.
All right.
So, yeah, I mean, just concluding here, it looks like fairly similar. I mean, no one has the exact same order. I mean, I guess the big omission would be Kyle having Calgary 6th.
Right.
Me having Calgary 6th. So I guess in our orders, those two kind of swap. And then Michael and I have the exact same top 4. So not too much of a difference there.
Ooh. What do we have here?
Oh, yeah, someone got hurt. We're going to move just
Right
geographically here.
Sure.
So why not go to what probably looks like the toughest division on the tail of the tape here?
Yeah, I like this.
It's going to be a bloodbath, beat 'em out, tough, hard-nosed hockey kind of division. And that, of course, is the Mass Mutual NHL Eastern Division.
Give it a rest.
I have
already.
no idea what Mass Mutual does. Is that a bank?
I think they're
You're
insurance.
a banker. You should know.
I am a banker.
Okay.
You got me there.
But yeah, I mean, it's top to bottom. It's a compelling division. So why don't you take us through how you see this shaping out, Mike? Who you got at 7?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, at 7, sort of easy here. New Jersey. They just lost Corey Crawford to retirement, which is really sad to see. I'm a huge Corey Crawford fan in the sense that I like the Blackhawks when they had their dynasty. And otherwise, I just don't think they're skilled enough, deep enough, or good enough to be anything but last place in this division. I don't think there's much more I need to say.
Yeah, no, New Jersey. They're going to turn into the punching bag of this division big time. Hughes is going to be a little bit better, but, he's not going to save the team as a second-line center. And I see actually Subban getting pretty, like you already saw him have that fight in practice or in training camp. I could see him really boiling over and things getting a little sour there. So look for a Subban trade. That's one of my big predictions for New Jersey. Other than that, they got that new, I think, Russian kid on the top line. I can't even remember his name. There's just not a lot to be excited about there. And the problem is there's not a lot of great youth to be excited about there yet, except for maybe Ty Smith, who you might watch. But it's just, there's nothing to see in New Jersey. He pulled the Drouin. He pulled the Drouin. He ran out of space. All right, Nick, number 8. Shock us, why don't you?
I'm not talking about this. New Jersey finishes 8th. I don't care about Jack Hughes' offseason and how much, he's been practicing and training and how he's been eating 5 meals a day and eating protein shakes and steak and eggs and rice. I don't give a fuck. It's not going to work.
I don't care about that.
And he will be disappointment in the fantasy circle this year, as we predicted last week. Disappointing season in New Jersey. I agree, Subban will boil over.
Yes,
he has lost Lindsey Vonn, both on the ice and off the ice. He is in for dark days.
Yeah.
It's over.
He fought a teammate like a week ago. What a prick this guy is. And I don't buy the fact that, he's fired up for the season. This is the right attitude to have. No, you don't fight teammates. I'm sorry. That you're just stupid.
Especially a usual fun-loving guy like him,
Well,
have
maybe
that
there's
reaction.
maybe there's a side of him we don't know, Nick. Oh! Shut up. Okay, go to 7.
Yeah, change the subject, Mike.
All right, number 7, the team that we're watching get shut out here. The New York Rangers.
No.
I love their forward group. I love it. I think they're one of the
terrible
deepest
team.
forward teams in the league. But defensively and in goal,
Yeah.
there's just too many question marks. Jacob Trouba's getting overpaid at $8 million a year. Like they've got some players back there.
Oh my
but
God.
when Anthony D'Angelo gets arrested for his role at the Capitol riots later on this week, and they lose him in the
Yes.
top 6, I don't know. I just think defensively and in net, there's too many question marks, and that's why I have them 7th.
Yeah, I mean, from what we're watching today, I might have to side with you, Mike. But I'll give you the Buffalo Sabres, which it pains me to say. Now, I'll preface this by saying all of my teams, other than 8, are very, very close. So when I say Buffalo at 7, they're right in that hunt still for me. It's a fun-ass year coming for Buffalo, so Sabres fans can finally rejoice in Kelly's corner. Hull and Eichel will turn into a dynamite, dynamic duo. Dahlin will be brilliant. I think he's going to shoot a bit more, and I think he's going to be kind of force his way into that Makar level of conversation, which I think he was probably there all along, but it's just Makar and Hughes have been getting all the hype. It's time for this guy to get a piece of his pie. Stahl is a very intriguing piece in the second line, very stable, very safe, and I think he's going to be a wonderful mentor for a Dylan Cousins, who will eventually work his way up to perhaps a right-wing second-line role here. So lots of fun in Buffalo. I'd be definitely tuning into these games. Obviously, they're going to have a problem keeping the puck out of the net, but lots of fun up front. Really interested to see him.
Yeah, I mean, I got to go Rangers here. It pains me to say it because I've only known Alexis Lafreniere as a winner. He is a winner. He's not a loser. He does not lose.
No.
He's undefeated at the World Juniors. 1 season, 1 win.
No, he had a loss the year before.
Yeah, he was the 13th forward.
Right.
Doesn't count.
Yeah.
It's going to suck for him to be on a losing team. And we're just watching here. Shesterkin, he got hurt, but he looks okay. So thankfully, that's okay. I think in goal, it's one of their greatest strengths. I know the goalie's getting lit up today. He's had a rough game. But overall, I liked his game in the playoffs. I liked his game in general. I believe he had over a .920 save percentage. I like the goalie. But the defense is the big mistake for me. The fact you have Jack Johnson, playing that many minutes, it's pitiful, especially the way he performed in Pittsburgh last year. Keandre Miller, is he ready to be a top 4 defenseman? I don't know. Can guys like D'Angelo carry the load defensively? We know he can be a QB, but what about on the other end of the ice? It's too many question marks on the back end. And as we know, there needs to be strength on defense for me to consider someone to be a playoff contender. The forwards look fine. If Laugh is on your third line, so be it. But the D's too weak. We saw in the playoffs against Carolina, they just play sluggish. It looks like this coach, Quinn, hasn't quite got, a feel for the defensive side of the puck when it comes to this team. So until I see some improvements in that respect, I can't be that high on them. So I got to put them right at 7th.
Sad, but I understand.
Yeah, so for my 6th place team, I've got Buffalo, which is super unfortunate because I think if there wasn't this divisional realignment, Buffalo might be a wild card team this year. But in net, Linus Ullmark and Carter Hutton, they could put up some wins, but they'll have to be carried by the defense and the offense, I think. I think defensively, Rasmus Dahlin is going to take a big step this year. I like their additions in the offseason. Taylor Hall is going to be great. Eric Stahl is going to be a good mentor. He won't put up the points that people are expecting in Buffalo, but he'll be a good mentor. It's hilarious that Jeff Skinner's getting paid $9 million to play 4th line minutes.
Oh my goodness me!
outside of that, though, I think Buffalo is the Ottawa Senators of this division. They're playing with house money. At this point, I know they are saying, oh, like, we got to make the playoffs, we got to win. But I think they're just going to be a fun team to watch this season. Ralph Kruger is going to coach them to the 6th spot in the division.
So we're on number 6 here. Might come as a shock to you guys. Pittsburgh Penguins, number 6, missing the playoffs. Let's be honest here. I think last season was the beginning of the mighty fall of this Penguins team. I always go in with such faith in the team, and they've let me down a few too many times now. And I think in this kind of division, I just don't think they have what it takes to compete. They're older. They're worse on paper in my mind than last year. I don't know if Jari is a number 1 to me. I mean, you saw him for half a season where he played very well, but he didn't play very well towards the latter half of that season either. Jim Rutherford, I think, has lost his clock. I think he's living on just, I don't know, like food stamps or something. I don't know what this guy's doing, but he is crazy. He doesn't win a trade to save his life. And then I think when Pittsburgh does get into trouble, they're going to make a big trade. And I think it'll be too late. So, I mean, yeah, Crosby, Malkin will still put up the points, but Malkin gets injured and we have a whole different story on our hands. I don't love the defense. I haven't loved them for a while. You have Cody Ceci back there. Like, what is going on here? And the bottom 6 hasn't looked this shaky to me in a while. Jankowski as your 3rd, and then Bluger and these guys. In a regular year, yes, they'd compete for a wild card, but this team I don't think can stack up against the top dogs in this division.
Wow. That's quite the take from a loyal Pitt fan.
Yeah.
I'll go with Mike here. I'm going Buffalo at number 6. Again, it's a pain they're in this division. If they were somehow playing with the Canadian teams, maybe I'd give them more of a fighting chance. But the reality is the teams ahead of them are too good, despite the growth. I really like the Stahl addition. It's a veteran centerman. You know, that way a Casey Middlestat doesn't need to do too much. You don't have to rush him in too soon. That will help. Of course, Taylor Hall, Jack Eichel finally has a guy he can count on at even strength. It's only going to make the power play better, which historically the last few seasons has been a strength in Buffalo. And, I mean, their back end is fine. I mean, Rasmus Dahlin is still emerging as a star. And, you know, there's enough depth there to be okay. But, I mean, goaltending is poor. The back end is average, I'd say. So if the goaltending's a poor tandem, I still don't know who Carter Hutton or Linus Ullmark is. If the defense is suspect as well, I just can't give them too much of a nod. It's going to be a fun season. Lots of goals scored, electric hockey. They're going to be a great NHL live team to watch. And fantasy-wise, you're going to be happy to own some Sabres.
Yay.
But, you know, long-term success, 56-game season, I don't think the team result will be that high. Buffalo will be 6th.
I'm coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kyle said it best about the Penguins this year, and it's really tough because I want to put them in the playoffs. You guys talked last podcast about fantasy picks being part gut and part analytics, and how sometimes you got to trust your gut. And the only reason I want to put Pittsburgh in the playoff spots in this division is it's a gut feeling, because it's hard to imagine Sidney Crosby and Malkin missing the playoffs. But I think that will only gets you so far, and that they'll will themselves to, as Nick had for Winnipeg, you know, missing the playoffs in the last game of the season. Mm-hmm. So I've got Pittsburgh 5 and a very disappointing end to their season.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, I think. I'll go number 5, and I'll make it super quick because you guys touched on them. The Rangers, who are watching, great forward depth, definitely a team I'm going to be tuning in a lot for. The defense, I really don't like. Jack Johnson's got to go. D'Angelo's got to go. And then these goalies, I like the goalies. You know, I like the goalies. I think they're going to be good enough to get them to that 5 spot. But the inexperience of this team, I think they're the youngest team in the NHL, is going to be the deciding factor in not making that plunge into 4th place. Number 5, Nick.
Number 5, Pittsburgh Penguins. Again, same with Mike. It's a shame to put them here, but I think the time has come. I don't think Rutherford did enough over the offseason, over a disappointing playoff campaign, to push them into the postseason. I don't think Kapanen is going to move the needle. I don't think getting rid of Justin Schultz is going to move the needle. Hell, even like an Oli Mata, who was a mainstay there, he's now in LA. I don't like their back end. I don't think it helps Jari. I think Jari's a great goalie, but I don't think, the defensemen are going to help him enough. And then up front, as I said, I don't like those additions enough. Crosby will do everything to will this team to the postseason. So will Malkin. Gensel, if he can stay healthy.
You sound so sad.
It is sad. They should be there. Crosby, it's his swan song. I was telling Kyle I was going to put $50 on this team to win the cup. If I got that right, I'd get a $1,000 payout. I thought the value is pretty good there, but I slept on it. Watched the game yesterday against Philly, and I don't think I can do it. So it's a shame, given their situation. But these 4 teams ahead of them are just better.
They're better.
And I think they're going to give more of a consistent effort over 56 games. So Pittsburgh 5.
Yep. All right, number 4. I've got the Islanders. I think they're the best coached team in this division, I'd be willing to say. Matthew Barzal is dynamic, electric, must-watch hockey, and they play a full team game that is fast-paced, physical, and forces teams to play on their heels. But I think as far as top-end skill goes, I like the other teams in this division more. So for the Islanders, I'm putting them number 4.
I got the Islanders at 4 as well for many of the same reasons. I really love that center depth, Barzal, Nelson, Pajot. Outside of Barzal, no one player on this team is going to wow you or knock your socks off. But case in point today that we're seeing is they're ready to play. They're really well coached. The Rangers are obviously all over the place. And this team just looks like they're dialed right in. They did lose Devon Taves. Fear not. We've got Noah Dobson coming in, and he looks like he's ready for big-time hockey. Perhaps not, 20 minutes or anything like that, but he'll come in and fill that hole. And then just, their goalies are always good. Doesn't matter who's back there. So Islanders at 4.
Washington Capitals, number 4. Never been the biggest Washington fan. Never really loved them. But they're a playoff team. And that's really all there is to it. I mean, they have enough star power. Ovechkin's still kicking it. He's going to be just fine. Riding shotgun with Backstrom, of course. And there's just enough depth. I mean, like a Tom Wilson still scoring and hitting. And Lars Eller is your 3C. It's a very boring team. Boring, but effective. And the back end, it's solid. I mean, they have Chara now. It's only going to help them. He's not going to play a top 4 role like in Boston. He's more of a 5-6. I think that's a much better fit for him at this stage in his career. And, of course, the big boys. I mean, John Carlson is still there. Brendan Dillon, who I love from San Jose, he's now a mainstay there. They got Justin Schultz from Pittsburgh. It's a little more complete on the back end, which is a good look. And, of course, the power play should be a top 10 unit. No hesitation in saying that. The big question mark is Ilya Samsonov. Is he ready to be a starter? Can he play 40 games? That's the big one. And that's the one I'll be keeping my eye on. But all in all things considered, I think they'll be a playoff team.
Yeah, so number 3 is a tough one for me because for all the reasons that you just listed off, Nick, like Washington looks to be a good team, a deep team, with a bit of a question mark in goal. I mean, Holtby was regressing, but to move on to Ilya Samsonov, we'll see how he plays. So that's why I have them at 3, because although Boston has lost a little bit on the back end, I still think that they're such a solid team with such a great program in place that they're going to be able to slot people in to replace Torrey Krug, who they lost. And well, not like Torrey Krug. I can't remember who they brought in this offseason to replace him. They signed somebody.
Oh, Boston?
Yeah.
Did
they not?
They replaced. I don't think they replaced him, Michael. That's one of the notes I have is the fact that they really haven't done much to improve on that back end with the departures of Chara and Krug.
Okay. Yeah. Well, even then, I think Washington slots in 3rd. Just, I like the goaltending tandem in Boston. I'm giving away a little bit of what I'm thinking moving forward, but I have Washington 3rd here.
Number 3, I'll do Boston. I don't like losing Krug and Chara. I think you're losing a lot of character in that room as well as your top power play defenseman. And I think that does bite them a little bit, but they're not going to fall too much. I think them and Washington are very much interchangeable. And you still got Bergeron. He is getting a little bit older. Marchand's getting a little bit older, but they're a good, solid team. They're not going to surprise you in any way. They're just going to be very solid. They're just going to quietly put up a good season, safe at number 3.
Number 3, this dominating performance we're seeing now, the New York Islanders. Fans of the show should know how high I am on this team. I picked them to go pretty far in the playoffs last year, bet on them to win the cup, came very close for that paying off. I was just so impressed with the way they fought off Tampa, even in the game 6, going to a double overtime and just narrowly losing that game. I really maintain they could have won that series. They came very close. And they're just methodical. They take a business-like approach to every game. Everyone plays hard. They don't put their foot off the pedal. They are accountable defensively. They're hard on the forecheck. They're aggressive. They are probably the heaviest team in this division, and that gives me a lot of respect for them. I just think they're very complete. Kyle mentioned Dobson, how that will help the departure of Pelech.
There he is on the top power play.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great look for him, and I only wish him the best. And they're just solid, even with the departure of Greiss. From what I hear about this Sorokin from Russia, he should be just fine as a backup. We don't know what the workload will be given he's a rookie, so that's in question. But I think they'll be fine. The way they play will do enough to insulate whoever's in net. And these forwards, led by the great professor of saucer passes, Matt Barzell, will keep them in good hands. So this one was easy for me. And I've been so impressed with this game. Call me, reacting too quick or, recency bias, but I've already picked up Varlamov. That's breaking news. I have picked up Varlamov.
Nice.
And I'm running 4 goalies.
That's sad.
Yes.
When are you going to drop Laugh if you're going to react this quickly?
We'll see.
All right.
So there you have it.
I mean,
okay.
yeah.
Well, what I can tell you is my trade is now off the table, by the way, officially.
What was the trade?
Go on there, Mike.
Oh no, what was the trade? Like laugh for who?
I was gonna I offered Nick so laugh for Suzuki and Kopitar.
Wow. All right.
No, the trade was Nick Suzuki and Brady Tkachuk for Kyle Connor and Lafreniere. I maintain that if this were a 1-year deal, like if this were plainly a 1-year league, I would take that deal. I would.
Yeah.
But I'm relying on the keeper value here. That's why I drafted him 6th round. And I'm sticking with it. So I rejected his trade immediately.
You're a meanie.
Well, after they got
Anyways,
shut out.
Number 2, we got to keep the pace here.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Boston Bruins. That's why I have it number 2. Raskin Halak in goal. That's where it starts. The second point is Bergeron, Pasternak, Marchand. The third point is Charlie McAvoy. And those are my top 3 points. After that, I think Bruce Cassidy's done just a fantastic job with this team. They're well coached. They play a great style of hockey. I hate it as a Leafs fan, but I respect it, and I've got them finishing second in the division.
Nice. And obviously my second is Washington. Old guard still present and can be effective. Show up and perform as usual. This is going to be a fun rivalry team. I can't wait to see a lot of those Pittsburgh-Washington games. That'll still bring value to me, even in this day and age. But and I trust the goalie here. I do. I trust the goalie. We just
Jack Hughes just ripped a.
Yeah, he just that was awfully. Yeah, that was something. But Washington at number 2.
For me, Boston Bruins number 2. They won the President's Trophy last year. I know. Wow, this guy just knows how to play the game.
Shut up, you fucking shit.
No, I mean, they're pros. The team, they're made of pros. They won the President's Trophy last year. Some people have them outside of the playoffs, which is just ridiculous. You know, I know you lost Chara, and Krug, but big deal. Like, to lose that much faith in them, I think, is a little dramatic. They still have the amazing top line. When Pasternak comes back, they'll be great. They won't miss a beat on the power play. This Matt Grizzlechuck looks like a star in the league. He already has 6 shots on goal for me tonight and a power play assist.
Wow.
A great debut for the young rookie. Or not a rookie, but he's a youngster. And I think he'll be the biggest sleeper defenseman in fantasy hockey circles. I got him with my 3rd last pick. I think it'll pay dividends. They're in good hands. Like Mike said, defensively, McAvoy will carry his load. He's arguably the best defensive defenseman in the whole league. I steadfastly maintain that. And up front, like I said, that top line is arguably the best in the league. And even if the 4th line or the 3rd line looks suspect, I think there's enough there to carry them, similar to kind of how Colorado rolls. And in goal, it's a fantastic tandem. You know, Tuukka Rask is no longer leaving abruptly. He's going to be with the team. And I think the Rask-Halak duo there does a great job. So they'll be just fine. Boston 2. Schmeck.
Okay, which leaves Philly at number 1 for me. I think Carter Hart has the potential to win the Vezina this year. He'd be my pick. Their defensemen are huge, like just giants on the back end to help protect the guy. And then after that, I think they've got a solid deep forward group, and I'm hoping that Oscar Lindblom and Nolan Patrick just have amazing years. I'm really high on the Flyers, so I've got them at number 1.
Yeah, talk about a team that's easy to root for this year with those 2 guys. Just incredible comeback stories for both of them. I'm actually really surprised all 3 of us are unanimous with the Philly thing. I saw a little bit of variance there, but I'll wholeheartedly agree. Very, very balanced offense, great defense, and that Carter Hart. Hey, this is his time. This is Carter Hart time. So, Nick, why don't you say not much more than that?
I'll give a different perspective. Philly's grown on me. There's a young writer on The Athletic. He's called Charlie O'Connor. I think he's the best writer that The Athletic has.
No.
Clear, succinct, just like they teach us in legal writing, Michael. This guy just knows how to write. And just going off of that, I've read all of his stories. I've read a ton of Philly in the offseason. I've read a ton about their camp. And I think they are the most complete team in this division. It starts up front. I just love the fact they have all these young players kind of growing as these mature veterans are still, able to contribute. So, for instance, you have a Claude Giroux and a Kevin Hayes playing with a young Joel Farabee, or a Haute Couturier playing with the young Travis Konechny. Patrick playing with Voracek and Van Riemsdyk. And the fourth line led by what O'Connor claims to be the best forechecker in hockey, Nicolas Aube-Kubel, who I think is a very underrated talent. So the four lines are the most complete in the division. Let's start there. Defense. Ivan Provorov is an emerging star, if you didn't know already. Justin Braun still has something left after being a mainstay in San Jose. I'm a big Braun fan. Travis Anheim, another emerging young star. Eric Gustafson, someone they acquired from Chicago, who was for quite some time their top power play contributor in Chicago. He passed Keith on the depth chart, and we saw last night he had 2 goals. So he's already leading their second power play unit. They have so much depth that a great young prospect by the last name of Zamula, I like to call him Zabulba, named after the Star Wars Episode 1 character. He's fantastic, this Russian defenseman who was a star at the World Juniors last year. And he didn't make the team, and I thought he would. And that's because you guys have, you have guys like Phil Myers and Robert Hagg playing ahead of him. And Gostisbehere, don't forget about him. So plenty of depth there. And then the goalies, Carter Hart sold me over the playoffs. I did not know much about him going into the playoffs. I didn't watch a lot of Philly games. But watching him in the playoffs, he probably was the most impressive goalie that I watched over that whole summer period. So I'm comfortable with him starting 40 games. Give him the rock. Let him run with it. And, hey, it's Alain Vigneault. He knows how to coach. He'll play a nice defensive structure, as we're used to seeing with him. Top to bottom, forward, defense, goalie, coaching staff. Best team in the division.
Nice. Well, we'll definitely have to be a bit quicker with this next division.
Can we do the because the last one is going to be the quickest. We're going to want to just shotgun that. So
Sure.
Can we go to the West just for Nick?
I think the West is a more interesting division, in my opinion.
There we go. Can we do that, Kyle?
Sure. Yeah, no, it is. The Central is pretty brutal.
So why don't you take it away on the I'll introduce it as the Honda NHL West Division. Michael, take it away. Michael.
Okay. Number 8, I've got the San Jose Sharks. I know they've got a ton of talent, but this is a gut pick. This is 100% a gut pick. I think they've got a lot of old guard on that team. I don't like Martin Jones and Devin Dubnyk as a tandem. And the only other team I can put down at the bottom are the Ducks, and I like John Gibson way too much. So this is a gut pick, but I have the Sharks finishing last in this division. And I have it been a very frustrating year for them because I think they've got a lot of talented defensemen, and they're going to be very frustrated with the team failure.
No, I'll have to agree with you, Mike. I have San Jose here. Obviously, it was between them and LA, but you know what? The guys that they really lean on, I think, are really just becoming very decrepit now. The Burns of the world, the Carlsons especially. I just think these guys are getting to an age where they can't really do it anymore. Vlasic is another one of those guys where I think his best years are far behind him. Interestingly enough, you have Marlowe back now. So he's back to being a San Jose Shark, which is cool. And that's something you can watch for. But the bottom six is just pitiful. And then, you've got guys like Evander Kane, who's now bankrupt. He spent all his money on hookers and cocaine. So that's a bad storyline. I just nothing's going to go right for San Jose. I think they're going to check out of the season rather soon. Rather early, I should say.
Hot take.
Not a hot take.
Hot take.
Yeah, Kyle and I agreed. San Jose, dead last.
That hurts, boys. That really hurts. Before I get to my 8th team, I'm going to call this the Nick division. Can I do that?
You may. I'll allow it.
LA, San Jose, St. Louis, Vegas.
Wow.
Like literally my 4 favorite teams outside of the Leafs are in this division. And then I get to watch Cale Makar and that stingy Minnesota defense that I love. This is the Nick division.
Yes, it is.
It's also the division that Pete DeBoer, Windsor Law alum, called the division of death.
Okay.
Do you agree with that take?
I do not.
He called it the division of death because those top 3 teams are going to beat the shit out of each other.
Right.
And that's why he called it the division of death. I got to disagree with my boy here. The division of death implies it's going to be hard to get into the playoffs. It's not going to be very hard to get into this. The East is the division of death.
Yeah.
The lawyer is wrong on that one. But I digress. Number 8, Anaheim Ducks. I dislike this team.
Come on, man.
I don't think the young Trevor Zegras will be able to lead this team past the basement. I just don't like them. They play a heavy style, but I think they're slow. Those young guys that all these pundits have been talking about lately, like a Troy Terry, Sam Steele, Comtois, it just hasn't come to fruition yet. I'm still waiting, and it bothers me. And, on the back end, adding a Kevin Shattenkirk isn't going to help you very much. I'm convinced he just wants to be in another, Sun State, Tampa, now Anaheim. And Gibson's about the only good part of this team, but I don't think he's going to do enough to be able to keep him from the basement. That's all I'm going to say about Anaheim. There's really nothing compelling here. This is a brutal team. Come on.
I've got Anaheim finishing 7th because I think what they lack in skill, they make up for in heart. Ryan Getzlaf is just a great leader. I love John Gibson as a goalie. I think on basically any other team, he might be able to carry them higher than 7th in this division. But at the end of the day, as Nick said, the additions just aren't enough. I think they're in the midst of a rebuild, and Zegras is exciting, but he's not ready to carry this team, and they still need more pieces around him. So that's why I have them 7th. But I have more faith in them than the Sharks. It's a gut pick.
At 7, I'll go LA Kings. They're bad as well as San Jose. I just think they've got a little bit more of a youth injection that you can look forward to in the Gabriel Velardis of the world. And you might even see Turcotte show up, hopefully. But yeah, don't get me wrong, they're going to be pretty awful. But I'm seeing Andreas Athanasiou, who's a marketable middle forward guy. Nothing really to say here. I don't know too much about the team like Nick does. But they'll be just ahead of San Jose. They still have Kopitar. And he's amazing. Yeah.
I've got Arizona at 7.
Oh my God.
I think they're going through a bit of a culture shock.
Yeah.
We saw their GM leave over the offseason. We saw them draft a player who abused a mentally challenged child. We saw them lose a heart of the locker room guy in Derek Stepan. Meant a lot to the community there. I know they're trying to win back the fan base by hiring Shane Doan in a managerial position, but it's not going to be enough. Phil Kessel is his old usual self, sleeping under the sun. Barrett Hayton,
Yes.
hopefully he can emerge. He's one of the young, few bright spots here. But it's asking too much of him to be a top-line forward, and that's where he's slotted right now. I don't like the team up front. I think what I just said says enough. The back end is fine. A Rick Tocchet coach team will keep the games low scoring. They're going to be boring games, as we saw in the Nashville series in the playoffs. That was probably the worst series of the entire bubble. And Kemper will keep games competitive. So low scoring, typical Arizona. But I think they've lost something up front. I think Stepan really meant something to them. Of course, no Taylor Hall, huge omission. I don't see enough of a optimistic outlook here, at least with the other teams I'll talk about moving forward. There's either a youth injection or a bounce back appeal that I like. And I just don't see either of those two things here. I think Arizona's in for dark times in the next 5 years. And it'll probably be the start of it. So Arizona 7.
Number 6, I've got the Kings, which again hurts. I don't know what it was about the 2010 to 2017 era of NHL hockey, but watching the Blackhawks and the Kings run roughshod over the league, for me, was just so much fun. And they became two of my favorite teams outside of Toronto. And to watch Anze Kopitar and Drew Doughty reach a point in their careers where I just don't think they can carry this Kings team. I think Jonathan Quick is probably in for another rough season. And I think, at the end of the day, that the Kings just don't have enough new to them to really succeed this year.
Number 6, I have the Anaheim Ducks. I think I'm a little higher on this forward group than you guys are. I see a lot of good things depth-wise. I love that kid line of the third line, Comtois, Steele, and Terry. And what you won't see here is that Zegras will be on this team. They're starting him in the AHL, but he'll make his way up, and I think he'll have a pretty immediate impact. Look him to boost the power play and that kind of thing. I don't mind this defense. It's okay, but like Michael said, I think John Gibson can really can make that difference and push them ahead of those two bottom teams. So they're my number 6.
My LA Kings will finish 6th this year. A marginal improvement from last year. I don't think they'll be as bad. I think they will compete. So much so, I will think until the final month of the season, they will be in the playoff picture in the Western Division. Pierre Maguire has gone so far as to say they will be a playoff team.
What a fucking knob. What a knob this guy is. How could he say that?
He thinks they will be a playoff team. I don't think they're going to go that far, but I think, like I said, they will compete for a playoff spot. And the reason I say that is there is a youth movement, youthful exuberance, as I like to say, led by Gabe Velarde on the third line. I think he did fantastic last year, put up many points, and I am excited to see what he can do over an entire season. They acquired a young kid called Anderson from the Rangers over the offseason. He's a former first-round pick, and they think he can find something that he wasn't able to find in New York. He'll be line mates with another Swede. The name eludes me right now, but I think that line could be potentially compelling. Trevor Moore from Toronto, who we love, he looks to be a mainstay. Athanasiou, they're taking a try on. We'll see how he does. But that top line of Kopitar, Brown, Iafallo, that's still intact. That will be fine. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, I think Oli Mata will do a lot to help Drew Doughty. Drew will be able to take some chances with Oli Mata staying back. I like that. Mikey Anderson, highly touted defense prospect. He'll be playing every day, along with Matt Roy, who I think had a great year last year. I just think there's more to like in LA than last year or the season before that. Lots of optimism. And all in all, I'm very excited. And of course, Cal Peterson. You guys don't know who he is right now, but he will be a star in this league. And I think he'll be splitting starts with Jonathan Quick this year. So I'm very excited to watch a ton of LA games, especially the ones Byfield plays in. Those will be must-watch
He won't play.
primetime games.
He won't play.
I know Michael will be tuning in for those.
Oh,
So there you have it.
There's nothing I want more in this world than for Byfield to prove me wrong.
Yes.
Because I want him to succeed, but it's so hard to discount what I've seen from him. I don't think he sees playing time this year with LA until they are statistically eliminated from the playoffs.
Right.
So if they're going to be competitive this year, that means less Byfield.
Yeah, and just to get to that, Turcotte and Byfield did not make the taxi squad. So they're basically sent down to Ontario, the Ontario Reign, and they'll be playing there until, I guess, the OHL season opens, which looks pretty grim right now, given the lockdowns here in Ontario. So there you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, so my fifth team, the last team to miss the playoffs, for me is the Arizona Coyotes. I like Darcy Kemper and Antti Ranta as a duo in net. Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Jacob Chychrun provide two really solid players on the back end, and they remind me a lot of the Toronto Maple Leafs during the Phil Kessel era, where they've got a team that you can put on the ice. They're exciting to watch for the fans, but they're just not good enough to make the playoffs. So that's why I have them finishing fifth. I've got more faith in their talent and style of play than I do in some of the other West Coast teams. But I do agree with everything Nick said earlier about them going through a bit of a culture crisis. And I hope they come out the other end in a better spot for it. I think Shane Doan is not just an addition to appease the fan base, but that he will provide a good level of insight to what builds a strong program and strong team.
Number 5, Arizona Coyotes. This to me is going to be the Darcy Kemper show. He'll go as far as he takes them. This team will do the best they can to mimic the New York Islanders system. Therefore, will be incredibly boring to watch. Now that system mixed with a great goalie, I think that gets them close to sniffing range of the playoffs amongst these kind of shittier teams other than the top 3. So I think that's why they get to 5. Hopefully Barrett Hayton steps up, but I don't see much scoring out of those forwards, except for maybe Kessel on a few couple power play points, but that's about it.
Number 5. Probably the most surprising team this year will be the San Jose Sharks. Lots of people are writing them off, and I don't think they're ready to be a basement feeder just yet.
Oh, Nick, come on.
I think there's enough to like here to say they might be a playoff team. A healthy Erik Karlsson, not so young anymore, young Erik. But he's healthy. He'll be back. Brett Burns will be back. I mean, they're leading your defense. Mario Ferraro, arguably the defenseman in the league with the most character in the entire league, is back there. He had a fantastic rookie year last year. Vlasic, I'm skeptical on. It looks like he could barely play at this point. I don't know if he's going to be able to play all 56 games, so we'll see how they manage his minutes. But that's where I want to start. The back end with Karlsson, Burns, Ferraro, Radim Simic. There's enough there to like. I'm pretty confident with them. Up front, Captain Logan Couture leads the team. I think they look just fine. Kyle's going to get to know a young kid called John Leonard from the University of Massachusetts Amherst.
I will
He
not.
played with Cale Makar and Ferraro. He is a high character player. He'll be playing in their top 6. He's sleeper fantasy appeal. He's already got an assist tonight. Watch out for him. Ryan Donato, who came over from Minnesota, he will be on their third line. He'll also be getting power play minutes. Watch out for him. I think those two guys will give enough depth to their offense to surprise some teams because I like their top 6. Couture, LeBanc, Meyer, Hurdle, Kane. It's strong. And those two guys should help strengthen the bottom 6. So that's exciting. The big question mark is in goal. They arguably have the 2 goalies who underperformed the least in the whole show last year, and Martin Jones and Devin Dubnyk. In my mind, both guys are basically fighting for their NHL careers at this point. A poor season from both of them, and they are done as far as I'm concerned. So lots of pressure there. I think that will improve their game. I think the internal competition will improve their game. And I'm just convinced that that will help them quite a bit. And I just think there's some sleeper appeal here. Too many people are writing them off. I don't think they're ready for that. And I think they will compete for a playoff spot till the last few weeks of the season. So there you go. And one more thing. A lot of people have said there's been a culture shock there. The culture is broken. There were stories of, blowout losses, following blowout losses, laughter coming from the San Jose dressing room led by Erik Karlsson.
Yes.
Worst culture in the league, it was said, end of last year. And I think what's really helped is that they can't play in Santa Clara County in San Jose. They are basically away from home, without their families. They're bonding together in Arizona for the past month. They're still going to be there until the bylaws in Santa Clara County lift. And from what I've read, it's been a very good rehab month to rebuild the culture there. And it's been working so far, led by Logan Couture. And I that's helped kind of, fix the biggest concern for me. So I think we'll see some improvements there.
All right. Number 4, Minnesota Wild. I think that their back end is so solid, and I think that their back end fuels a resurgence for Cam Talbot. Not that necessarily Cam Talbot earns it himself, but because playing behind that back end will make him look fantastic. Kirill Kappazov is a Calder favorite early on in this season. I'm excited to actually see him play some games. I don't know if he's played tonight. I was focused on the Rangers-Islanders game, but I'm excited to watch that one. Anybody who's listened to the show before knows my opinion on Marco Rossi, and it's so sad that he's injured and I think out for the season.
No, really?
Maybe not out for the season, but out for a significant time, which in a shortened season like this, for a player of his stature, could mean that we just have to wait to see Marco Rossi play NHL games till next year. But regardless, I think they've got a great back end. I think up front they're a little weaker, but they've still got some good players like Fiala, Parise. Kaprizov should have a good season. There's somebody else that stood out to me. Oh, Jordan Greenway. I loved him at the World Juniors, and I want him to come out and have a great year. I think in a season where physical hockey is going to be important, you're playing the same teams every night, I think he could have a huge impact. So I like Minnesota, not enough to put them higher than 4th, but 4th place.
I'll echo that. Minnesota at 4. I think they'll be a surprise to many of us. Kevin Fiala will emerge as a star in this league. Many of you don't know that after the trade deadline last year, he had the most points in the NHL. That's pretty big. Look for him to get a point per game. Kaprizov will meet expectations, create stability in that top 6. Dumba will find his game again. I think he's really a good player who lost a little bit of that scoring. He's going to rebound this year, and Talbot will be average, which is all they need with that blue line. Nicholas.
Minnesota 4, Jared Spurgeon is the new captain in Minnesota. Couldn't have been a better pick. Arguably the most defensively accountable defenseman in the entire league.
Come on.
And that's saying something.
Take your pick. Fucking
Not to mention
McAvoy or this guy. What do you want to do here?
No, he is. And, they got Jonas Brodin there, Ryan Suter, Dumba, the usual suspects. They will help insulate Cam Talbot. My bold prediction, Cam Talbot will be a top 10 fantasy goalie this year. Matt Moops was very astute picking him up fairly late. I would have got him had I not chosen to go with the Vegas tandem in Binnington. Kyle should have gotten Talbot.
No, I'll stay away for now. All three of my goalies are better.
He was ranked my 8th goalie on the board, for the record. I specifically didn't mention him in our fantasy show, so none of you would take him. I'm that high on him. And yeah, the forwards will be good enough. Like you mentioned, Kaprasov will help the power play. Apparently he's on the half wall, and he's been ripping them in practice. Fiala's on the other half wall. He's going to rip them. And they will do enough on the power play to score enough. That's the concern. Will they score enough? They still don't look so great up front. But I think they'll do enough on the power play. The defense will be good enough. And Cam Talbot will be serviceable enough. Because we all know in the past, the real, weak spot there has been Devin Dubnyk. So, this team deserved a better fate last year. And I think they're going to get that better fate now that they have stability in goal. They've solved the number one problem, which is having just a serviceable goalie. And I think they have that now in Cam Talbot. So this defense will lead Minnesota to the playoff.
Yep. I like that. Number 3, I've got the St. Louis Blues. I wanted to put them higher, but at the end of the day, Colorado's got too much skill all over their lineup. The Vegas Golden Knights have one of the best goaltending tandems in the league right now, and if not the best. And so St. Louis drops down to 3. I love what they have in Ryan O'Reilly and Brayden Schenn as their top 2 centers. I think it's hard to find a better two-way tandem in the league. And on the back end, Torrey Krug brings some life to the power play. Colton Parayko continues to shut it down on the back end. And even if Binnington just plays average, I think they're a lock for number 3 in this division.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. St. Louis at number 3. And this is more so, who of those top 3 will slot where. I think Vegas is too good. Colorado's too good. And that makes the de facto pick St. Louis. I think Binnington is way overrated. Plays behind a good defense. And just pretty much everything Michael said. I really like those top guys. O'Reilly as captain's a good fit. And then, you know what? Just a very boring team. Quietly just going to do very well.
Number 3, Colorado Avalanche.
What a jerk. This guy watches one game of this season and his mind is made up.
This team is not as defensively accountable as the St. Louis Blues or the Vegas Golden Knights. I bet you their goals against average will be worse than both those teams. I'll happily make that bet. And I'm not as impressed from the defensive end and their forwards playing accountably defensively. Can they score a lot? Of course. The first line will be as advertised. And the second line with the addition of Brandon Saad is fantastic. I love their additions. Even, a Taves on the back end will be great. But, I don't like them as much as those 2 other teams. That's as simple as it is. To Kyle's point, these 3 teams are at a tier of their own. And if I had to pick one, that'll be 3rd. It's Colorado, simply from a defensive accountability standpoint. That's all I'm going to say. Colorado 3.
All right. Well, I disagree with that because I've got Vegas going number 2, which leaves Colorado at 1 for me. But for now, I'll just dive in on Vegas. They added Pie Triangles. Great player. Great best defenseman potentially in the league. at times. I know I call them pie triangles, but
Yeah, I just caught that. I was like, what the hell is that?
but yeah, I think it's a great addition. They're going to roll with 5 defensemen at times, which I think is weird. I think, I don't know. I just think that at the end of the day, top end talent, Mark Stone's a great winger, great two-way player. Pacioretty, I've thought has been overrated for a while, but he's still going to get you your points. Their top line center is William Karlsson or Cody Glass this year. Cody Glass. Yeah, we'll see. If Cody Glass puts up an unreal year, they could finish first. But I think Vegas finishes second in this division.
I'll echo that. I think we've had some pretty similar takes here, Michael. But yeah, just a very balanced team. If there's only one kink in the armor, I think it might be that high end, pure skill talent on something like a power play that might turn out to be not as effective as a Colorado's. Simply because they don't have that game breaking. Like Mark Stone I'll take Mark Stone on my team any day of the week. Is he a game breaking offensive player? No, I don't think so. I wouldn't call him that. And I wouldn't call any of these other guys that either. So that's where their one weakness lies for me. But obviously, yeah, everything else is going to be rock solid.
Number 2, St. Louis Blues. Very bland. I mean, they're basically bringing back the same group with the exception of Pietrangelo and Steen. Steen, late in his career, wasn't really contributing very much. He was more of a character locker room guy. That's all really they're missing. It's not going to make much of a big deal given Ryan O'Reilly, arguably the highest character guy in the league, is now your captain. That won't change much. And Pietrangelo, well, looks like they didn't skip a beat last night. That's all I'll say. And Torrey Krug will bring more of a puck mover mindset to that team. It'll modernize their style, add some pace, something they lacked with Pietrangelo, who's more of a steady defenseman. And they finally have a defenseman who's a power play quarterback. I love me some Vince Dunn, but he's a QB on a second power play unit, not a first power play unit. Parayko can't lead a power play. They finally got their QB in Krug. He's probably a top 5 power play QB in the whole league, and they locked him up long term. So I think that's going to help. And love their additions. And other than that, they're bringing back the same crew. So St. Louis 2.
All right, which leaves number 1, which is for me, Colorado. One thing that I have not been able to take my eyes off of at the start of this season are the top 50 players in the league projections. And one thing that keeps coming up is that people have McKinnon and McDavid right at the top. And I think McKinnon, as far as a two-way game goes, can dominate play all over the ice. And when you have a player like that on a team as deep as Colorado is, it's really hard to bet against them. Cale Makar is dynamic on the back end. I hope Devin Taves is okay. And if he is, he's a great ad. I really like their team. A lot of young players who I think are going to take a step forward, not back. And when you have arguably the 1B player in the league, it's hard not to see this team finishing first in this division.
I'll agree with Michael. Probably the quickest team and maybe the most purely skilled in the whole league. They shored up their defense with Taves. Look for Connor Timmins to have an incredible year. I think this guy has, talent that everyone's underrating. Like at one point, he was their top defenseman in their well, maybe not because Makar, but he won top defenseman at the World Juniors one year. Been following him a lot ever since. Brandon Saad add some veteran talent there, loads of skill. But one thing I'll say is this defense is underrated, big time. Like this Devon Taves guy is serious. Connor Timmins is dead serious. Eric Johnson isn't even in the lineup right now, so that's what you're missing from this picture here. And then you've got a guy named Bowen Byram waiting in the wings should one of these guys inevitably get injured. It's just an embarrassment of riches. And then you look at the forward group, you just got it all. Like you have your grinders here, you have your Nichushkins. Matt Calvert is one of my favorite bottom 6 players. This guy's an absolute warrior. And then you have Tyson Jost on your fourth line, a guy who can add in a little bit of scoring. And then McKinnon is just, for my money, I'll take him over anyone else in the league. This roster's untouchable. The only thing that might be their Achilles heel, coaching. We'll see what this Jared Bednar guy does with this team. Can he wrangle all this talent and make it do something magical? We'll see. But I think he's a pretty good coach.
The best team in the NHL, the Vegas Golden Knights, will finish first in this division. Let me take you through the back end. The goaltending position is the best tandem in the entire league. And it's probably the biggest storyline in the whole NHL. Who takes the starting job? How long does Marc-Andre Fleury stay in Vegas? Lots of drama. We all know the Alan Wall story, and we'll see how it plays out here. For my money, I think Leonard will win, but I am rooting for Marc-Andre. I listened to they had a press conference yesterday with the two goalies sitting next to each other, and it was great. Basically had Leonard moping and not really talking and not showing a lot of exuberance. And Marc-Andre Fleury, what a guy, smiling the whole time. He asked all the reporters how they were doing when they asked him questions, asked them about their families and their kids. He was practicing with Jake Allen all offseason in Quebec, hiking, biking. Wow. Sounds like a great guy.
Wow.
I want Fleury to win this job. That's part of the reason I drafted both guys. Leonard's already getting lit up by Anaheim in the first period.
Oh my God, really?
2-2 game.
That's
8
very
minutes
exciting.
In. So keep an eye on this. But hey, I still think the tandem itself, them pushing each other, it will be fantastic. Best tandem in the league. Back end, Michael made a very astute point. 13-5. We seldomly see this kind of coaching structure. Sounds like something innovative Pete DeBoer would do. And I can't blame him. I love their five. I love McNabb, Pietrangelo, Theodore, Martinez, Whitecloud. It's great, especially in the playoffs where they play the best defensive hockey of any team in the league. And, I won't talk much about their forwards. I like to live by the philosophy you succeed in this league by giving up the least amount of goals, not scoring the most. And if you live by that mindset, I think this team will do the best at suppressing goals. They will have the lowest GAA at the end of the year. And I think that will lead to a President's Trophy, especially led by Captain Markstrom. So, Vegas Golden Knights, my number one seed.
Okay, let's move on.
And one more thing. Pete DeBoer, when they asked him about the goalies, he says there's no starter day one. It's a tandem for the first bit. It's going to be 50-50, kind of like what the Islanders did. And then he said, end of the season, all bets are off.
Right.
So that's the latest report from Pete DeBoer. Also, this really fucks with me. He basically said he will not be announcing a starting goalie per night, like every night. So no announcements on who's starting, which is really weird. He claims it's a tactic. I disagree with that. Like, how's the other team going to tailor their approach depending on if it's Fleury or Leonard? Like, I have no idea. But I just don't really like that mindset. It kind of catches me as tacky and too smart for your own good.
I know we're running a little long here, so I'll keep this brief. What I've heard about these divisions where you're playing the same opponents over and over again is all of a sudden your book on the opposing team's goalie just gets deeper and deeper. So having that little bit of deception in a year like this could actually be a really smart tactical move.
Good call.
So you think this Juris Doctor is up to something?
Yeah, I think I think he tells the team who's playing, right? They're not left in the dark. So I think at the end of the day, all it does is keeps your opponents guessing, and it's a win-win in my opinion.
Well, it's not working so far. 2 goals against Leonard in the first 10 minutes.
Is that right?
Yeah. I have a 12 GAA right now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I'm getting absolutely destroyed this week so far. But I'm watching the Vancouver Edmonton game right now. My plan is to watch the Minnesota LA one tomorrow morning.
Nice.
Wow, this fucking guy. Tape of Minnesota and LA
Wow,
on
that's
a Friday morning.
wacky game.
Fucking committed.
We're watching Winnipeg Calgary here. It's a great game, by the way. If you want to
Oh,
tune
yeah,
in
yeah.
late. But yeah, let's crush this
Let's
last.
shotgun through this.
Agreed.
I'm just
Okay.
going to say this is the misfit division. Basically, the NHL, they said we're going to have a Canada division. We're going to have a hard-nosed East division. We're going to have the division of death out west. And we're going to just throw all the
Everyone
misfits
else.
into a hodgepodge division, the Discover NHL Central division. So let's just run through this.
Yeah, agreed.
Mike's got to get to his tape of Minnesota and LA tomorrow morning.
Nice.
So let's get to this. Mike, number 8.
All right. Here we go. Do you want me to run through all of them or just 8?
No, we'll keep the structure, but just keep it
Okay,
to a
quick.
sentence or two.
All right. Chicago Blackhawks are last. They just don't have it this year. Jonathan Taves is out. They don't have a starting goalie. I hate the fact they're going to finish dead last in the NHL, but they're going to finish dead last in the NHL.
Chicago Blackhawks are last. The top line will score. Everything else is awful. What's the goaltending situation up to? Not much. Duncan Keith is probably the lone blue liner of note back there, and without Taves and without Doc, like the organization is just shaking their heads and packing it in, coming back next year. See you later.
Detroit Red Wings, number 8. Steve Yzerman needs draft picks.
Red Wings.
He will urge his team to tank. They will tank and finish 8th.
Okay.
For all those reasons, I have Detroit 7.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got Detroit 7. I think they're going to be a bit better, more respectable this year. You might see a Veleno come in. You might see a Sider. I don't know if he's eligible or why he's not there already, but there's better things coming in Detroit, and I just think they're less of a laughing stock than what Chicago will be.
Chicago has leadership. Detroit lacks leadership, thus making Chicago a little deeper. I still like the fact Kane is there, Keith is there, DeBrincat. To Mike's point, no goaltending. That's the big wild card. But who's to say Detroit's got goaltending either? So I'm comfortable with Chicago at 7.
All right, number 6. I do not trust Yusei Saros and Pekka Rinne in net. I think Nashville, their players are getting older and that they're not going to be as good as they used to be. And Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene, I'm not sold on.
Right on, number 6. Little shocking for me. I have Columbus Blue Jackets. Much of this revolves around that Pierre-Luc Dubois drama. I think he signed a sweetheart deal, so he could be traded. We see how he is in the interviews. This guy wants out, and it's going to cause problems, and it's going to turn into Tortorella benching him, and that's not going to help anybody. A lot of low-scoring games, and they won't be able to score. So that's my take on them. Number 6.
Number 6 goes to the Florida Panthers. Still don't know what they are. They lack an identity. Joel Quenneville wants defensive accountability. Keith Yandel looks like he's on the way out. They're going through a weird cultural transition. I think it's going to take some time, and I don't think they're playoff ready just yet. Barkov and Huberdeau will do whatever they can to lead them to the promised land. But just don't see the depth, especially on defense. Still a little suspect in my mind. So Florida is 6.
Nick talked about storylines in Vegas with the goaltending tandem. I'm going with possibly the most disappointing storyline in the NHL, at least to start the year, with the Keith Yandel storyline in Florida. I think it takes a lot of wind out of the sails of a team that should have been looking at this year as a year to really come in and blow us away. And that's why I think they finished 5th and out of a playoff spot.
Right. I have Nashville at 5. They remain stuck in their ways. I think they need to give more ice time to their top guys. They're going to produce a mediocre season. And I think Nashville, major pieces will be traded after this year. It's stale. Life is stale in Nashville. Things need to change, and they will.
Nashville at 5. John Hines is still not shown he can be a competent coach, and I would not put my money on him to lead them to the playoffs. Wow. We just saw save of the year.
What?
Jacob Markstrom robbed Mark Scheifele.
No way.
That might stick up as save of the year. So
3 minutes to go, too. Wow.
that was awesome. Let's watch the replay.
Having no
And they're
class
all
tomorrow,
over him, too.
I'm excited to watch
Sorry?
as many replays as I can tomorrow. That's my goal.
Oh yeah. Look at this.
Wow, and
He's going one way, and he has the wherewithal to
With-
make the save with his glove.
with
the
no
other way.
stick in his hand, too. Wow.
Oh, the Askarov.
David Riddick
Yeah.
or Talbot's not making that save. I can tell you.
Oh, God,
that much.
no.
That's where they're spending their money. But yeah, to my point, Nashville. I don't believe in John Hines as a coach. I think the forwards don't have enough. I think Matt Duchene is just happy to be there, stringing his guitar. They lost Kyle Turris, who I like, but he didn't fit in there, so fair enough. I don't think they have enough firepower to stick with the 4 teams that I have ahead of them. And I just think they're a team that lacks an identity. They're kind of lost. And despite Roman Josi putting together a heroic effort to get them into the playoffs, I don't think it'll be enough.
So
McDavid hat
here's-
trick, by the way. Just letting that slide in.
Sorry, McDavid.
McDavid hat trick, yeah.
Yep. So here's where my hot takes for this division begin, because at number 4, I've got the Dallas Stars. I think they are going to have a very weird year because of COVID. I don't doubt the talent. I think Rupe Hintz is going to have a good year, playing more minutes. I really like the team. I think Hudobin's going to be good. But with Ben Bishop out and Tyler Seguin out to start the year and playing with fans in the arena, I think they're going to have like a fair number of COVID scares. And ultimately, that's going to push them down the standings to number 4.
Fair enough. I'll go Florida Panthers at 4. Something tells me the core of this team can push their way into the playoffs here, especially jumping a team like Nashville, who doesn't impress me much either. Ekblad is going to emerge as a star defenseman this year, a do-it-all player. I think he's got all the tools to do it. Power play time is now trusted to him, and Bobrovsky is going to have a bit of a bounce back, and he's going to be an average goaltender, and that'll be enough.
Columbus Blue Jackets get to 4. The distractions off the ice will be difficult. I'll see Kyle that. But I think Torts will get enough of a grip of the dressing room to will them to a playoff spot. And I just think it's that simple. They play the game the right way. They play a hard-nosed style every game, very similar to the Islanders. And I just think that will be enough to get them past the other teams in this division. So Colombo just slides in as the 4th seed.
Yeah, I have Columbus finishing 3rd. I think once the lights are on and play is started, the Pierre-Luc Dubois rumor becomes just that, a rumor, and he focuses on the ice. I think he's a professional, and I think Tortorella will keep the focus on ice play. I think Cam Atkinson is underrated and is going to have a good year this year. Plus, defensively, with John Tortorella coaching the personnel that they have, I just don't see how they don't make the playoffs. I know that's a double negative, but
Yeah, I like that. Where are we? 3? 3, I have Dallas. Obviously, they've got some major injuries to the likes of Sagan. The Ben Bishop injury won't affect them too much because I think Khudobin will be a great number 1 when the time comes. They're a boring-ass team. They lost Corey Perry, and they're just going to find a way to get it done systems-wise. Not going to score a lot of goals, but they've got that experience, and I don't see them getting kicked out of this thing. So, Dallas number 3.
Dallas number 3 for me as well. They play with enough structure, night in, night out, to be competitive. Rick Bowness will urge them to play like that, especially missing Tyler Seguin. They may not score as much, but I think that back end, led by Miro Heiskanen, will do enough, as well as the fantastic goaltending of Anton Khudobin. Up front, I think Gurianov and Heinz have breakout seasons, and I think that does a lot to displace the offense they're losing in Seguin and Perry. It's going to be a bit of a, offense by committee, kind of what we're used to in Dallas. No big leading goal scorer. But I think it'll be enough with that strong goaltending, with that strong defense, to finish in that 3rd seed. So, Dallas 3.
All right. Well, if you guys remember our draft show, I do like to take a gamble. So at number 2, I've got the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Nice.
I like their team, but I think Kucherov will be missed. I don't think there's another player on their team who can step up and fill that type of production. And in a division where every point matters and there are teams that are going to be physical on them, players like Point and Cirelli, who are a little undersized but play a solid two-way game, may not be able to get the offensive production that they need to replace Kucherov. Vasilevsky still finishes as a Vezina finalist, and Hedman is a Norris finalist, but I have them finishing 2nd in this division.
Right on. I'll go with the safe pick, Carolina Hurricanes. Obviously really great on defense. I think they've got about average goaltending. Svechnikov becomes a 90-point star. I see him taking a step there. I think him and Aho will develop a really good love story between the two. And I think they're going to become one of the best duos in the league. And then just a lot of analytical darlings on this team. So it's not a team I'd watch, but they'll do well regardless.
I'm with Kyle. Carolina finishes 2nd. They play too consistently from an analytic perspective to struggle. Forwards and defense, it's like they work in perfect harmony. They just know how to get it done. The Corsi percentage will be sky high as always. And Svechnikov will have another great year along with Aho. And the defense will be stable as always. The big question mark, goaltending, that's why I can't put them first. I like Michael's take, but I just don't have enough faith in Peter Mrazek and James Reimer to be a number 1 seed. I said it before at the offseason. They needed to improve at that position. They did nothing. I don't know what Tom Dundon, the owner, was thinking, but we'll see how this gamble goes. I think it's going to come back and bite them in the postseason, but I think they'll be just fine here for the regular season. So Carolina 2.
So I've got Carolina 1, and I think I could go on and on about why I think they're going to win this division. I love Sebastian Aho. You've got a list of talent: Andrei Svechnikov, Tovo Teravainen, Jordan Stahl as your 2nd-line center is unreal. Nino Niederreiter is a great 2-way player. Martin Nikash is going to just take another step forward. On defense, you've got Pesci, Slavin, Dougie Hamilton, Brady Shea. Jake Bean, I think, is going to be playing in the NHL level, so it'll be exciting to see what he can do. I agree that there's question marks in goal, but I think that Jack Adams winner Rod Brindamore will take this team to number 1 in the division.
Nice. I'll make it simple. Oh, by the way, Mike, you just missed a snipe of the century from Patrick Laine in overtime. Game over. Tampa Bay, we've got they're going to be dominant. I'm not going to say too much here. They're going to miss Kucherov a very minimal amount, and they'll be just fine. Just fine.
Pains me to say it, but phony lawyer will get his
Fuck.
team to the top. Honestly, I can't really hate him as much now that he's won the Stanley Cup. Like he's basically shoved it in my face. He is a one.
Yeah.
So I'm defeated, and I cede defeat to John Cooper, and he can lead his team to first seed. That's fine by me. So, John, good for you. It took me 4 months to accept that and to thank you, or I guess to just congratulate you. But if you're listening to this, your team will be the first seed. You're too deep, even without Nikita Kucherov. And you'll have an easy time. And for the most part, it is a misfit division. So good on you, and enjoy your first place finish.
Indeed.
Is that it, boys?
Yeah.
Wow. What a slog.
Sure was.
All right.
Sure
Well,
was.
Michael's got to get to watching tape between Minnesota and LA. Kyle's got to go scramble and watch this McDavid hat trick. I'm sure he would like to see these highlights.
That's right.
And I got to go find out if Robin Leonard's been popping pills again. 'Cause this is not good things I'm seeing out of Anaheim.
Oh
I don't know what the hell's going on.
You didn't see this coming.
My elite tandem is getting lit up in game one.
Yeah.
So something's got to change here. I got to find out what the hell DeBoer's up to. So without further ado, we thank you for tuning in to our third annual NHL Divisional Preview. We hope you enjoyed. We have stock. We've written it here in the record. Pints will be awarded to the winner, as always. And yeah, that does it for us. So thank you for tuning in. You'll hear back from us in another couple weeks to review what the hell happens in the next 14 days. And until next time, thank you for tuning in, and good night.
Night.